Greetings. Thank you for tuning in to my YouTube channel today. It's great having you here, and I hope you're doing well. I'm sharing a short audio journal today about some real-life experiences that have happened to me repetitively. So, of course, when something is a strange pattern that you do not understand, that is very weirdly similar in the patterns, we can adjust them to overcome them. Okay, I am venting about a pattern that I have experienced with Christian men. Now, Christian men are very different than non-Christian men. In this way, I'm not really going to use an adjective to describe how I see these Christian men, but it's not good, okay? I know everyone has different personalities. Christian men expect women to be little, weak, submissive, quiet, little lambs who can't think for themselves, who can't make their own decisions, who can't live independently, etc. And I'm sorry, but that's definitely not me. That's not something, an expectation that I'm going to conform to in order to be accepted by a Christian man. In general, let's take religion out of it for a second. I don't want to be in a partnership or a life relationship with a man who only accepts women who are codependent and who are quiet and submissive, etc. Easily controlled? No. I am not easily controlled by just anyone, and that is a expectation that I don't like. In a healthy relationship, Christians included, one partner is not supposed to overpower the other partner. One partner is not supposed to control the other partner. I will not marry a misogynist. That went off on a tangent. Let's get back on track. This pattern. So, I don't know these men very well. I'm just trying to get to know them because I'm a single woman who is looking for a partner. Christian also. Okay, we got to put that in there. As a Christian single woman who is looking for a partner, I only date other Christian people, right? Because we don't want to be unequally yoked. I know not all Christian men are like this, but these are just the ones that I've experienced in this pattern, okay? And it's all around the world even, okay? Not just in a certain place or a certain area. Around the whole entire world, different countries and everything. Christian men are like groups like this, in my view, because this has been my experience, okay? I'm not generalizing here, though. Just hear me out. I'm not doing this anymore, okay, because I'm seeing the pattern, I'm recognizing the pattern, and I'm stopping the behavior that creates the pattern, right? But in the past, I'm a persistent person because I'm a Taurus, I'm a bull. They're persistent, right? That's my zodiac. And that's actually one thing of a tangent. Christian men will refuse to date me when I say something like that. When I say I'm a Taurus, the Christian man will say, I'm no longer interested in dating you. Bye-bye. It's not because of my zodiac sign, but it's just because I talk about the subject of astrology, which I'm not into or anything like that. It's basically the gist of the entirety of what I know about astrology. I'm interested in it. I believe in its validity. I believe in its, value and everything like that. But I'm not an expert or a deep, practicer or anything like that. So when I describe my personality, I always bring up my zodiac sign. And some, otherwise great on paper looking Christian men will not want a woman who he cannot tolerate astrology at all. Okay. Alrighty. But yeah, I just went off on 2 tangents. I'm getting back on track here. I'm knocking on the door. Sometimes one time in Ohio when this happened, literally, I'm knocking on the door of his house. Okay, when I grew up in California, this was a totally normal part of life growing up in California, was knocking on people's doors of their houses to visit them, to be neighborly, to say hi. Let's spend some time together on this beautiful sunny day afternoon. Do you want to go, for a walk, have lunch, this and that? This was totally normal part of everyday life growing up in California. So when I moved to Ohio, to another state for the first time, this was maybe around, over a decade ago. I had that ingrained in me, that it was a habit, so there was this one man who I was interested in, who lived in the same town as me, and I knew somewhat, a little bit, an acquaintance, even before moving there. We were talking like every day and stuff, but for some reason, like, there was a fallout that I don't even really know, but he appeared to me in a dream relatively recently, and he asked for forgiveness. I guess he slandered me. Oh, yeah. I didn't give him what he wanted, which was sex. He was a Christian, by the way. And all he wanted me for was sex. And he wanted me for nothing else but my body. And I didn't give him what he wanted. I wanted pretty much everything but that, right? Because I'm a real Christian person who's dating, and this man is corrupt and perverted. But I was young, and I had, rose-colored blinders glasses on, like I do for pretty much every single man I've ever got a crush on, right? Because I have a serious problem with only seeing the good in people and, turning a blind eye to the bad in them. Anyway, I didn't give him what he wanted, which was sex, and he slandered me. And so he appeared to me, like, spiritually in a dream a few days ago, and he asked for forgiveness. And it was probably one of the most disgusting dreams I've ever had, but I won't go into detail, but it was disgusting. So I'm kind of assuming that whatever slander he spread about me was disgusting. I don't even know what it was. And I trust actually that my not knowing things is actually God's protection for me. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate him asking for forgiveness. It's always good to be remorseful for your sin against God and against others. But this one man, okay, This is where, like, the pattern, I guess you could say, started over a decade ago. And I was knocking on his door at his house, doing my normal thing like I've done every day growing up in California. And, you know, just wanting to spend a little bit of time with him, talk, hang out, chill like friends. Enjoy the day, have lunch or something, okay? And he would ignore me. He would stonewall me. And so what I do when people stonewall me is I just keep knocking. Like, are you going to open the door? Because this is what normal people do. When you knock on a door, you open the door. And if you don't want to open the door, I can respect that. But you can talk through the door and say, hey, I'm busy right now, blah, blah, blah. Or send me a text message on my phone or whatever. They just stonewall. They just get silent. They don't answer. They ignore. And the way I see it is that you must have something wrong with you to behave that way. Normal people don't behave that way. Are you afraid of me? Do you hate me? Why and why? And why can't you communicate? Did the cat get your tongue? There's something very wrong with the behavior of these Christian men. Who ignore me and stonewall me and this and that. Silent treatment, you know. And this one Christian man, even the guy in Ohio, he went into like spiritual warfare because he was a musician. And so I'm knocking on his door, totally innocent, totally friendly, totally nice, totally, you know, not a woman sexual predator, as Satan likes to falsely label me as to people, to men especially, but totally innocent, you know, Christian woman, neighbor, friendly, this and that. And he starts engaging in spiritual warfare. He starts playing his music. He starts worshiping God really, really like overly loudly, like with other people in his house. Like this man starts getting into like really deep spiritual warfare when I'm like just knocking on his door. What is wrong with these men? Are you not an adult? Are you still a child in an adult body or something? Because an adult man behaving like this, getting into really serious, deep spiritual warfare with an innocent, pretty, friendly woman who's simply doing nothing other than knocking on your door. You see me as a spiritual threat from Satan or something? What's wrong with you? Really? The same exact pattern happened with a man in another country, a man in Africa. I'm expressing interest in him, and he flips the fuck out. And for months on end, like 9 whole entire months, 10 months maybe even. I don't know. I'm maybe exaggerating a little, but seriously, because I did nothing but innocently expressed interest in this person, figuratively knocking on his door for communication, he gets into really heavy spiritual warfare and stuff. These men like see me as like, they're like terrified of me. And I don't understand. This doesn't happen with men who are not Christian. I talk to a lot of men who are not Christian, who behave normally, who behave friendly and open, and not one little tiny spot of fear of communicating with me. Normal people. But these Christian men will stonewall me, ignore me, and behave really crazy in my eyes, getting into intense spiritual warfare when I do absolutely nothing but knock on their door. I don't know what's going on here. Hopefully I'm misreading, but I really don't think I am, because I know myself. I know I'm a very deeply intuitive person, and I trust my intuition because it's usually 100% right on. Okay. I know assumptions are assumptions, and those are different than intuitions. Intuitions are deep knowings. Assumptions are kind of like generalizations or stereotypes. I don't go around assuming that if you're a Christian man who I express interest in, that you're going to have an extreme level of fear and stonewall and ignore and get into intense spiritual warfare for 10 months. What the fuck is going on with these men? I see immaturity, really. I don't know what is happening here. If you think you might have some insight and light and clarity to shine to me, please write it in the comments. But people think I'm evil when I'm not. So I went into a church here, and I talked to the pastor, and I needed help, and it was actually a life or death issue because I had to get surgery, and I didn't have like escort to come with me that was required by law. So if I didn't get this escort to come with me to the surgery, I couldn't have the surgery. And if I didn't have the surgery, it was a life or death situation, right? So I asked the pastor if he could help me find someone in the church who could be the escort for me to go to the surgery. This pastor could not be real with me. He could not be honest with me. He could not be direct with me. I know what it is. It's a communication problem. Oh my God, I'm sorry for yelling, but I just figured it out. You know how I'm saying here, I don't know what is going on with these people. What's the problem with these people? This is the problem. These people, these Christian men, have a problem with communication. Because here's the thing. The first man in Ohio, all he had to do was look at me directly, take control of the situation, and say with a, neutral tone, looking in my eyes, Shelby, I don't want you to knock on my door anymore. Shelby, I don't want to spend time with you. That's all he had to do. But for some reason, he instead chose to get into heavy, intense spiritual warfare for 10 months without saying a word to me. His problem was he could not communicate. He didn't know how to communicate. He was afraid. Okay, the problem is not just communication. It's fear. Fear and communication. Fear of communication, fear of me, and inability to communicate. Yeah, that's the problem. They're afraid of me, and they have an inability to communicate. That's the problem. And non-Christian men do not have a fear of me and do not have an inability to communicate. But Christian men have a fear of me and have an inability to communicate. Wow. Now, Joshua, the Lord Jesus Christ, obviously does not have a fear of me and does not have an inability to communicate with me either. And he's Christ himself, who these people claim to worship and praise and, you know, cling to and this and that, represent, right? I don't know what is wrong with it. Well, I do know what is wrong with these men. These Christian men, and not all are like this, only these ones that I've been experiencing. So something about them, like something about a Christian man who has a fear of me and an inability to communicate is I'm attracted to. I'm obviously not attracted to those things, but it's like some subconscious thing that's like common in these people. Can I find a Christian man who is not afraid of me? Joshua? And who does not have a fear of communication? That is my prayer concluding this video. You know, I have to give up on these immature weirdos. Seriously. Yeah, my heart is too big. My heart loves too much, and they have their own issues that I can't help them with. And I'm not clinging to these weirdos anymore. So, Lord, I pray that you help these weirdos to not be so weird. Help them to mature. Answer their, take away their fear and answer their prayers of their spiritual warfare, of not treating any other daughter of yours like this anymore. Okay. Help these men to mature and learn how to communicate. That's my prayer. And I'm letting them go. And then I'm praying for you to bring to me men who are Christian, who are not afraid because there is no fear in love, who are real Christians and who aren't so weird and immature like these other guys. In Yahshua's name I pray. Amen. Peace out.
If you like this video and would like to see similar content from me in the future, please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button on my videos so that I can get more views in the YouTube algorithm. Thanks.